You're welcome.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Charles. We shall be having a working tea, but I'd also request that we minimize movements. Let me invite Reverend Chris to give the remarks. Thank you very much, Reverend.
Thank you much, Master of Ceremonies. I'm a teacher by birth and by inclination. So if I see some people standing and my Lord Bishop, the Bishop of Central Busoga Diocese, Patrick, Central Busoga, the Regional CAD, Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, Busoga Sub-Region, my brother, Reverend Canon Everett Mugarura, the SDA leaders in the House, the Orthodox Church leaders, the Bishop head Born Again Faith, the Catholic Church leaders and representatives, Minister of Health representative with us, the clergy, Soga Diocese from Central Soga Diocese, and my fellow priests from the Catholic Church, my Iga District Youth Chairperson, representatives from the DHO's office, the SRHR Alliance partners, and the SRHR Alliance staff, headed by our national coordinator, Mr. Charles Otumeno, and other staff, the media that is with us today, and staff from Family Life Education Program. The Master of Ceremonies didn't mention it, but my duty is to welcome you here on behalf of the SRHR Alliance. Lord Bishop, we are so thankful for shedding time from your busy schedule. We think that class churches are closed, but we know you very working. I see you on TV, I hear on radio, you're buried almost every day. And so even all other religious leaders here. So it's, we don't take it for granted that you have given us this opportunity to come and be with us this morning. And equally, all the other people from all the other faiths, as you are invited. I'm happy to observe that all the people that were invited are here. So we are so thankful to you for that. This is an interfaith campaign on integration of adolescent health information and services in the COVID-19 response. And our theme, as you have the program, is action towards the continued access of essential life-saving health information and services for adolescents amidst COVID-19. The slogan we've chosen, Lord Bishop and all religious leaders, you'll allow us, we've chosen to dub it as Faith for Youth Health. And this is the Eastern Interfaith Dialogue. We had one in Kampala at the National, and we are cascading this here in Jinja for Eastern region. We have people from Tororo, Bukit Diocese, and all other areas as represented from Bugisu and all other areas. By the end of the day, Lord Bishop and all the invited guests, we will be to create awareness about the need of integrated approaches of COVID-19 response, and we will be able to move on to increase actions towards ensuring continuity of access, essential and life-saving adolescent health services amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, we'll be able to create spaces for faith-based advocacy on continuity of essential and life-saving adolescent health services amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Lord Bishop and all participants in here, you'll bear with me. That has been hardly a year during this COVID-19 pandemic. But there is a lot of devastating things that have come out, especially with our teenage people, young people, especially the girls. Just during this spell of 1 year, a number of teenage pregnancies have happened to our girls. And to me, that's a challenge to us as one, religious leaders, as parents, as guardians, and as champions of sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. Is it because the schools are closed? Is it because the churches are closed? Is it because the mosques are closed? Is it because the places of worship are closed? Yesterday I was reading in the paper New Vision, where in the Kabale, 100 teenage pregnancies have happened. But now Kabale maybe is far. In Busoga, this has been a case. I'd like to interest you that the challenges that young people are going through, these people, the perpetrators, are not far. They are from within the households, from the neighborhood, who entice these young girls into acts of sex, and in the end, they get pregnant. This is a great challenge to us all, and we've worked closely with Canon Everett Mugarura and all others. I think this is the time to start embracing sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights messages. I remember some time back, there was a policy that was coming, and many people were against it, even before reading it in depth, or even before putting an input. Now, what is happening today shows that we need to embrace SRHR championing to our younger people, so that we all become actors and not observers. Agents. Leaders. We are talking on the notes, on the weddings. We have opportunities even to go to people's homes, and I think this challenge directly touches us, that we need to tighten our belts and also pull up our socks if we have to have a future for this country, especially for our younger people. Uganda, as one of the sub-Saharan countries, we have the youth, where over 70% of young people and youth are cohort of the population. Now, for sanitizing here, that may not help a lot. What is important is to sanitize your hands. Or if you don't have sanitizer, then you can use maybe a napkin to keep it up. What was I saying? I said I'm a teacher by birth and by inclination. Yes, Uganda is one of the countries in the sub-Saharan Africa which have the biggest percentage in the youth, over 78%. I don't know that figure has changed, but it used to be that. And this is a big population. If we don't embrace it, if we don't take care of it, then we may have bandits in future. We may have a chaotic nation. And I'm calling upon all of you, like we've invited you as the Desert Alliance Uganda, to come and have this dialogue, but also at the end of the day, having commitments on which we shall follow so that we move on. This Alliance Uganda is comprised of 8 core organizations and 50 affiliates. Now, we started as a small, but we're now growing. Some people get worried when people talk about sexual reproductive health and reproductive rights. But for us, each organization in the Alliance has something to contribute, the niche, and we ride on the synergies that we bring together as an alliance to address the plight of younger people in this country. And the FLEP is one family life education program. Busoga Diocese is one of the members of the Salvation Alliance. There is Straight Talk Foundation, there is SEHAD, there is Restless Development, there is, can someone remind me? RHU, Reproductive Health Uganda, there is RAHU, there is Richer Hand, and and UNIPA, Nafofanu. Those are the 8 core, but we have over 50 affiliates. Now, like I said, each of these play a vital role. Family Life Education Program, FLEP, Busoga Diocese, is the only faith-based. And we play the role of faith-based. Actually, we preach to all the others. I've been preaching to them. Sometimes they refuse to get saved, but I'm continuing. but the point here is that we are trying to bring on board everyone so that we can play our role. I want to thank you so much for coming. I am the vice chairperson of the board of the SRHL Alliance. My chairperson, Ms. Stella Kentusi, is the chairperson, but she's in Kampala on other duties. And as a servant of God, when she told me, go, I said, yes, I will come. And I'm happy also to have this opportunity. If she was here, maybe I would not have had the opportunity to address you. But I've taken this because she's not here. And I pray that in the future, she gets away so that I can continue to take the show. For these few words, welcome to Jinja City, welcome to Sarachal Alliance, but let me now invite my Lord Bishop Patrick Central Busoga to come and give us a keynote address. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you. Praise the Lord, brethren. Protocol, our chairman has made it very rightly. Can we clap for him? Because I don't want again to go over the protocol. I'm Patrick Wakula, by God's grace and by his divine permission, the Bishop of Central Busoga Diocese. Central Busoga Diocese covers 5 political districts Iganga, Namutumba, Kaliro, Ruhuka, and Bugweri. Where we are is Busoga Diocese, and I want to bring the greetings from my brother, the Bishop, the Right Reverend Paulo Samsoni Moses Mukembo Naimane. I know some of the team is here, the chaplain and others. I want to warmly welcome each of you by God's grace, whatever you are, because I know whatever we are is a calling from God. And I'm sure God calls men and women that are able, that are willing, that are committed to do His will. Wave to your neighbor and you'll say, congratulate you upon that calling. You don't need to be a pastor first, you don't need to be a bishop, you need to not be a canon to know that God called you. Even in your less situation, God called you to do this. So as the Alliance, our dear team leader, and all of us, we want to thank God for this. To come and share something about adolescence. I grew up in Jinja here, and at one moment I was almost, I was half a street kid here. Because I grew up in Spire Road, where I had my education in P1 to P7, St. James Senior 1 to Senior 6. In 73, my elder sister married to a rich man here who inherited the things of the Bahindi. But after 2 years, my sister was sent away. But my father-in-law said, Wakula, you stay because you are humble, you can do work, you stay. So I stayed because I was able to wash and do all of the other things. But at some stage, there is another wife who came in, who thought maybe my sister would give me medicine to bewitch her so that she may come back. So I began the phase of being tortured as an adolescent. That's why I was saying partly we had a very powerful somebody on Iganga Road, we approached 23 Ganga Road. We had a very powerful home where we used to go and open and pick. They were leftovers for them, but for us it was a very wonderful meal from Hotel Equatorio. But we thank God, between those lines, God can see us mature. Hallelujah. And between those lines, God can see us serve even in a better position than where we came from. Maybe also you remember where you began and how you were at that stage as an adolescent. Maybe you know what happened to you. You might have a worse story than mine. But congratulations, you are there. I want to thank God, the chairperson and the team, Reverend Chris, for inviting me. We are normally invited on burial ceremonies and other things, but normally to come and say keynote address. This is my very first experience. So kindly, if I don't share with you what you expected, I repent prematurely before time. What should be done by religious leaders to promote continuity on access to adolescent health services, especially during the COVID-19 lockdown? Younger people in adolescent stage are very vulnerable. That one we are aware. We are all aware. Is the thing on? It is on. Members, you get me? We are all aware that the world's population is largely dominated by younger people. In sub-Saharan Africa, more than 1/3 of the population are younger people aged 10 to 24 years. With enormous numbers dwelling in developing countries like Uganda, UNFPA 2015, you can refer to that one. Uganda has the youngest population in the world, with 48.4% of the 44.27 million people being adolescents. World Population Review 2019 and WHO 2019. Being the largest and most energetic population makes younger people's well-being an important determinant in the country's developing agenda. Younger people in the adolescent stage are very vulnerable, and the sexual and reproductive health choices they make as they transit from childhood to adulthood, determine a lot about their well-being and the development of the nation. The social and health choices adolescents make are largely influenced by the people with authority, including us religious leaders, faith-based organizations, parents, government in their community. Religious leaders acknowledge that adolescents find themselves in a trap of sexualization and intimacy and eventually engage in unsafe sexual activities, leading to consequences like unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, school dropouts, early marriages, perhaps peasantry livelihoods. To address these consequences, religious leaders routinely roll out rehabilitation programs, counseling, dialogue that equip the affected adolescents with skills that can reshape the future of such people. Religious leaders are authority figures who have access to all people. That one you are sure. Whether burials, whether homes, whether families, our opportunities don't need government permission. We only say, I wake up, I bathe, I take a tea, then I go into a home. I say, I take a tea, then I run into the school. I say, I move here, then I go into an office. For us, our permission is granted by God's divine permission. Congratulations. Adolescents, young adults, and the middle-aged, and the elderly communities value religious beliefs and consequently respect views from their religious leaders. So they are important sources of guidance and influence in all aspects of life, like adolescent sexual reproductive health. We now thank Alliance for this programming, for God calling you to do this task. The impact on behavior and adolescents, especially in the aspect of self-control, and direct their focus towards getting into a point in a time when they can freely exercise their rights. In this regard, when the medics think of physical health, the church thinks about spiritual health. Sometimes we don't match up, because the physical health will talk about condom use. For us, the spiritual health, we shall talk about self-control. Spiritually, several reverend, as the medics talk about ABC, abstinence, behavior change, condom use. For us, we memorize this word condom use. We say abstinence, behavior change, Christ in control. So sometimes we don't correlate rightly. Because the more curious a mind is set into motion, the more anxious it becomes to exercise the information that is at hand. So now when you tell the child, the condom is done like this, even if you are using a matoke, he will say, but where can the thing fit here? Where does it go? So sometimes we may not match up rightly, but we know whichever direction the grace of the Lord is available. The religious leaders also never condemn sexual immorality, although they admitted that it is natural and human for the adolescents to behave the way they do. Religious leaders continuously engage and offer guidance and direction to the adolescents, although at times it requires collaboration between the religious leaders and health workers to articulate the salient issues. Religious beliefs often provide moral frameworks on sexuality, especially in countries like Uganda. Adolescents are most likely to refer to religious teachings in order to make decisions about their sexual and reproductive health issues. In our engagement with adolescents, they respect information passed by religious leaders, take a pride in it, and share the same message with the rest of their peers. This helps to change their attitude and focus their minds on things that matter. They also do cherish holy practices like fasting that help them to self-respect on the future and restore their virtue of patience and purity that are instrumental in shaping behavior. The information can help reshape and focus adolescents' energy and behavior, and eventually produce responsible citizens with lasting impacts. Remember, our target children, the adolescents, they are in a process of graduating from childhood to adulthood. Their bodies are producing a lot of hormones, estrogen and testosterone. The body now, the body parts are growing into the full maturity. So there is a lot of stress and strain. There is a lot of trial and error. There is a lot of questioning and saying, will this organ function? So it is a very terrible stage, brothers and sisters. The body is pushing them into what they want. It is where naturally we need an intervention there. They begin wet dreaming. Some of them are trained even to masturbate. There is a secondary school here that teaches boys to masturbate as a way of releasing, having sexual release. And yet it becomes a very abnormal trend when things come the other direction. So these children that we want to tackle, their bodies are through a lot of things, and yet we can't tune them like a radio. There is no way we can just get hold of their emotions and their feelings and we throw them into the air. They need love, they need fellowship, they need affection, and they need role modeling. Through use of all of these available platforms, religious leaders routinely remind adolescents about the adolescent health and use the word of God to preach to the youth and the adolescents in the dangers of sex before marriage and how sexual immorality is punishable by God. The religious leaders also continuously call for collective actions by all stakeholders, especially those in positions of responsibility, especially health workers, political leaders, or elders, to always call the adolescents to order. Generally, there is a challenge of harmonizing religious beliefs and the demands for reproductive health and rights of adolescents. On one side, several secular movements are promoting right-based interventions to improve access to sexual and reproductive health information and services. Some are good, like services to prevent, diagnose, and treat STIs, counseling among others. But like promoting access to comprehensive sexuality education, on family planning to children as early as 10 years, then empowering younger people to know and exercise their rights for sex. On the contrary, that stage now may not be appropriate for such very serious interventions. The child will say, let us really practice and see. Really, can this work? Can this one participate like this? How if it does this, what happens? On the contrary, religion teaches that sexual activity should not be discussed with those who are not ready for marriage, because to encourage them to have sex. Remember, I was saying, when you cause anxiety, you cause exploitation. This belief is against the concept of comprehensive sexuality education and inhibits access to sexual and reproductive health information and services to young adolescents. Most religious leaders feel that providing young adolescents with the means to have safe sex is a way of encouraging them to have sex outside marriage. By the way, even before we talk, these children have got exposure to these things. There is Sukupa, there is YouTube, there is all of those things. You just look at the YouTube, you place a question, what do you want to search for? Then whatever you need comes out. Praise the Lord. If they want real sexual union, those things are there. If they want to be taught how to kiss, those things are there. The sengas are there in plenty. The sengas are there in plenty. senga kawomera, sengani. So even if we don't speak, already they have got exposure to those things, even before we talk. At home, these children normally enjoy the TV Novela E. I normally see my children at home. We have 5 girls and 1 boy. Novela E. Why Novela E? There's a lot of kissing and hugging. So sometimes even they tap at each other that they are about to come. What do you do as a parent? Do you say so? Sometimes, one time I met them, I saying, now, do you know what those people are doing? They are really kissy, but we kiss when we are adults. Can't you see the beard, the goatee? So for you, you are still very young. You just watch and say, hallelujah, God help us to grow up to that stage. But again, rebuking and switching off and throwing away the TV is not a solution. So religious leaders' roles can influence individual, social, structural factors which can directly determine the status of adolescent health. Individual factors such as knowledge and level of awareness on adolescent health can lead to informed decisions on adolescent health as well as peer-to-peer promotion of this health. These children, we normally see them in schools. Reverend Amazi here is a chaplain in Wanyang Girls School. I don't know how busy she is with questions and the answers over this. And if we keep quiet, some learners come as experts, yet they already spoiled. So there is the opportunity to cause commotion. It is our prayer that religious leaders will take up the mantle to advocate for laws and policies supportive of adolescent health rights, can as well have an influence on the impact of community empowerment and engagement. To effectively promote adolescent sexual and reproductive health service, there is a need to engage influential community members, including parents and other religious leaders like priests, lay readers, church teachers, imams, pastors, bishops, apostles, from the grassroots level. Our church, Anglican Church, is quite well structured. We have leadership at all of the levels. There is a church teacher, there is a lay reader, there is a reverend, there is a pastor reverend, there is an archdeacon, there is the bishop at the center here. So if that chain of information flow can be empowered, I know we can reach out to our children very effectively. I see this as most effective intervention for reaching younger people, because this can be equipped with information to pass on to younger people in their respective settings, putting COVID-19 SOPs into consideration. Religious leaders usually use their already existing structures to engage adolescents in discussions on adolescents going about their duties as religious leaders. For example, religious leaders greatly contribute to the promotion of adolescent health by enhancing information sharing regarding adolescent health, although the information is rooted in spiritual healing and abstinence. Right now, we have online churches from top to bottom. Almost all churches are doing this, and the mosques. And even into the villages, I know we can be there. Through youth departments, this is something from our structural formation. Through youth departments, we can promote youth-friendly corners, give them private time at the assistant offices, archdeaconry centers, parish centers, and sub-parishes. Younger people can be invited for dialogue, engagement, counseling in their during this period of COVID-19, and can be one-on-one with religious counselors equipped with adolescent health knowledge. By the way, religious leaders also should be spiritually mature. Sometimes us leaders have become sources of problems. Have also ourselves incidentally again we become sources of problems. You need to be spiritually mature and fully born again. Or else during the process of counseling you may think that there is heat coming from one particular direction, and then the devil takes the stage. Instead of praying, now you are looking at the size of the girl's chest. You are saying, but with their mother, it seems you resemble the mother. Is that part of the counseling session? We are supposed to help these children heal. Some people have misread the gospel. Mbwani alunde ekisibo natonya mu matagamu. We read the Bible chifuula nenge, misinterpreting the gospel from what it meant. We should be spiritually mature, and we should be parents in our methods of reaching out, or else we may become the wolves. And then the devil will say, I congratulate this forum. And the devil will be able to have milk tea every evening, saying, I have won the battle. Wave to me, you say, the devil lost. Younger people can be done through Mother's Union, Father's Union Department. The parents, through this structure, can be engaged in this. What needs to be done is purposely equip the destiny workers. You are district officers of the Muslims. Your pastor have an engagement with right information to give to parents through those structures, and the parents to the children. Education Department of Central Busoga Diocese, for example, is in charge of 250 primary schools, 28 secondary schools, 1 core PTC, and 2 technical schools. Through the chaplaincy ministry, we can have access to these children. And I know there are so many schools that are founded by the Muslims. So we can use such. There are so many schools begun by Pentecostals. So the chaplaincy ministry can be very effective. We have the right children of the adolescent stage. We can intentionally, through school administration, through chaplains in our schools, we can reach out to these adolescents with information. Counseling, dialogue, especially still online counseling, like the way teachers are doing these days. I have students who are engaging their teachers every day on Zoom. Engage religious leaders like the school chaplains to do that work, and then it can be done. In our health department, we can come up with the Sun Health Week all day, and the main focus can be on adolescents and their health. Because we have it all, for example, we have the Mother's Union Day, the Father's Union Day, the Diocesan Teachers Day, the Diocesan Youth and Children Days. So this can be used as centers to engage our children. We talk to them, we listen to them, we give them the answers, and then we help them to grow. Through the Department of Household and Community Transformation, this goes directly to local communities. Adolescent health interests can be part of the community program for transformation, because healthy families are equal to healthy churches, and healthy churches will make a healthy nation at large. In our mission department of the diocese, the word mission covers all aspects of man in the eyes of God. To have healthy adolescents is part of God's love for his creation. And so healing and health are in spiritual aspects first, and then mind and body comes next. So through our missions department, as religious leaders, we can purposefully have a well-stipulated mission to have a healthy generation. Lastly, some concerns, brothers and sisters. Good partnership between church, stroke mosque, and all the stakeholders is paramount. 2, funding and empowering of religious leaders is very crucial, especially these days when we are at home. I was about to tell Reverend Chego, you are inviting me, but my vehicle is totally dry. So funding several team leader and empowering religious leaders. I know we are able and willing, but sometimes how do we move while we are old enough to walk on foot? So funding and empowerment, we pray that God gives you the sources. Regular monitoring and evaluation on the progress of this program is very necessary. 4, building a winning and a committed team requires the grace of the Lord. Some people are able but unwilling, and you can't force an old person to do this. Some people are willing but unable. They need to be trained. Then some people are unable and unwilling but very well positioned. Those need replacement if you have the authority. If you have the authority. Rights should go together with responsibilities. A married woman can have the right to come back at 2 a.m. but will she really be responsible enough to force the man to open the door? A man has the right to come back at any time, but are you responsible enough to be the head of the family? Every night children to pray in your absence? So as we talk about children's rights, adolescent rights, we need to know that they need also to be responsible. Faith-based teams emphasize spiritual mechanisms for growth. I have mentioned this already. Spirituality and scientific mechanisms should go together. Because I was saying, where science says use the condom, spiritual leaders will say Christ can. Adolescent males are part of this health cycle and problem. They should also be attended to. Because I saw in the other paper, girls, adolescent girls, younger women. I didn't see younger boys. Because pregnancy is not through lesbianism. Pregnancy is through heterosexual intercourse. So a girl and a girl can't impregnate each other. So when we leave the boys outside, we are still leaving the whole thing to grow. They may become rapists around us. So the boys also should be given programs to help them to make the right interventions. Availability of our recipients is also vital. We are now on Baba TV. We wonder how many adolescents are listening. So we need also to have a mechanism to see how we get these children to listen to us. Spiritual health plus physical health builds an upright and adolescent. So teaming up is very necessary. Prayer and fasting for this program is very important. Remember, the amount of faith one has is directly proportional to the power of God that works in that person, and inversely proportional to the plans of the devil. So full faith, full success. Full faith, the battle shall be overcome. With these few remarks, I would like to thank you for this rare opportunity to fellowship with you. Faith for youth health, we say amen. Faith for the youth health, that is our slogan. I pray that faith for the youth health should be part of our lifestyle and our daily meal. I now take this single opportunity to declare our dialogue open in the name of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, our dear Bishop. This set is here. Maggie, please send someone for photocopying. Then the members should have a copy. Thank you very much, our dear Bishop. Indeed, you have made a very good, you've given us a very good opening message, and I think everyone here can now start positioning him, his or herself. Because when it comes to SRHR, it is a general concern. We have been living it for CBOs, NGOs, health workers, and but right now, Sheikh, what is your role? Reverend, what is your role? Canon, your role. It is now a general concern about our adolescents. On many occasions, some of us have been hesitant and we have been hiding information from these young girls and boys. And I've been asking people that who is supposed to talk to the young girls and boys about sexuality education? I'm happy and glad that the stakeholders are here now. Let me take this opportunity to invite Dr. Dina from the Ministry of Health. But before I do it, I have to welcome her, because when I was welcoming people, she wasn't around. Please, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning. I hope it is still morning. Just to correct you, I'm Nawire Justin, Dr. Nawire Justin, representing Dr. Dina Nachiganda, the Assistant Commissioner for Adolescent Health and School Health Division. Thank you very much, Bishop, for the keynote address. It was really keynote. I appreciate all your submissions. I think if we really take that direction, we're on the right track. All religious leaders, please, I respect you in this room. Before I go on with my speech, I just want to make a disclaimer that sexuality education is not teaching young people how to have sex. It isn't. What we need to know is that young people already know about sex. And it is the role of the family to give young people education about sexuality instead of them finding it outside, because they will find it anyway. But the family can guide a child right from a young age. They give age-appropriate information about why, because as we grow up, we see people who are pregnant. Even when we are 3 years old, we know that this woman has a big stomach. And children ask, why does she have a big stomach? Are you going to lie to her that she swallowed a stone? We give to a 3 child, are you going to tell her she had sex? Of course not. We give the right information. There is a baby inside there. Just that, is too much. She's all wide-eyed. There is a baby inside there. They don't want to know how that baby got there, whether people had sex to have that baby there. But as they grow up, they pick up information. And if we don't give information, if we don't find out what information they have, they get the wrong information. Because from different people, they pick information from their friends. So, as parents, we need to give information. As religious leaders, we need to help parents know what information to give, to what age. All right, now I get back to my own. So the COVID-19, this animal, that outbreak has come with many changes in the way that people work, associate, seek services, and carry on day-to-day activities. Adolescents and young people who have been engaged in school activities now have to be at home or in isolation centers for those who get affected by the coronavirus. Young people being confined in the different home environments can come with health and other challenges, much as it can also be an opportunity for more parent-child interaction in the home setting. There is limited access to youth-friendly health information and services, including SRHR, as the health care providers and the community and other caregivers are focusing their efforts on COVID-19 containment and management. So some COVID-19 mitigation strategies such as lockdowns and social distancing have led to problems such as lack of transportation, to access commodities, counseling, and information on issues concerning the health of young people. This situation is therefore likely to increase adolescents and young people's vulnerability to disease and poor health, including mental health, now and in the future. School attendance is protective for most adolescents and young people from risk behaviors. However, with adolescents and young people at home with few activities to do, they are likely to engage in substance use, sex, and other risky behaviors. Whereas restrictions have been put on bars and entertainment centers, which are common avenues for accessing alcohol, adolescents have networks that ensure continuity to access these substances. With the lack of activities to keep adolescents and young people occupied, this may increase substance exposure and use in the community and its associated effects. There are adolescents and young people engaged in transactional sex and cross-generational sex who mostly engage with long-distance truck drivers. This may increase their risk to coronavirus infection, HIV infection, and other STIs, and also spreading them to their families and friends. It is against this background that the Ministry of Health came up with guidelines for continuity of services, especially to SRHR. So what do adolescents expect? A study was carried out after the first lockdown of 2020. So adolescents expect emotional and psychosocial support, treatment and care for different illnesses. That includes COVID-19, malaria, RTIs, HIV/AIDS, and menstrual-related issues. They expect maternal health care and immunization for their babies, because we all agree that adolescents are having sex and they are having babies. Then quality gender-based violence services, because the lockdowns have showed us that adolescents have faced a lot of violence, but the services have been hampered with. SRH commodities, accurate health information, education, and life skills. They expect food. Some of them are working and they expect an income. They want legal aid because, well, like we've said, some of them are working and they are not paid. If they are not paid, what happens? Is there help? They need parental love, guidance, and support, and they want to associate with their peers. What do caretakers, the parents, they also have needs. So the parents, health teachers, health workers, They need skills on communication, taking care and protecting adolescents from health risks and diseases, emotional support, education and information on sexuality to counsel their children, then information on services for adolescents. Much as the lockdowns and coronavirus which brought it has hampered with lives, but it also brought opportunities. And these opportunities include improved opportunity for parents to interact with their children. We know there has been a big gap between parents and children. And that's why actually we are seeing most of these problems, because the bonds, the relationships between parents and children were shaky, so children could not even trust their parents to tell them what is happening. There is another opportunity can be home-based sexuality education by parents and caretakers, giving the right information, strengthening values, which can also be strengthened by the religious leaders, then integration of adolescent health and SRH into COVID-19 messaging platforms, reduced access to alcohol and bars, improved practices on hand washing with soap, and mental health and psychosocial support. For the risks that are associated with COVID-19 pandemic, the major ones that I'll pull out, there is underfeeding and hunger especially for those with parents who have lost their jobs. The adolescent pregnancies, then cross-generational sex. We all agree we have been talking about girls, but it takes two to have sex and to get a pregnancy, but it's only seen on one. When the girl gets pregnant, we don't see the person who made her pregnant. All the fingers are pointed on the girl. But there is a lot of cross-generational sex happening. Most of these girls are not made pregnant by even their counterparts, boys of the same age. Most of them are made pregnant by older men, people who they cannot even negotiate with. And most of them, on top of getting pregnant, they also end up with HIV/AIDS. There is increase in substance use among our youth, the boys, but not only boys, even girls have started using substances. Is it shisha, kuba? I hear kuba is liberally sold in supermarkets, where people just go and buy like they are buying chewing gum. They put it in drinks and what. So then inappropriate exposure to non-adolescent friendly content through mass media and social media, excessive amounts of time spent on social media and watching television, which has led to loss of social skills. You will find that most of us have lost our social skills. When we sit inside here, you'll find 5 people seated on a table, but everyone is on their what? On their phone. You haven't even exchanged 10 words. You sit together for 5 hours and you don't talk to each other. That's how bad it has got. Then lack of access to SRHR commodities, information and services, limited community support to access health services, especially SRHR. Then exploitation due to restricted movement. Our children have been exploited by, some of them by their own parents, relatives, neighbors, then high-risk sexual interactions due to limited activity at home, and poor mental health. Many have lost their parents, their relatives, brothers and sisters. They don't know if they will even go back to school. So the stress increases, depression, and we have seen a rise in suicide rates among young people. Then there is increased cases of defilement, which of course result in teenage pregnancies. So it's a vicious cycle. And we see that our girls, especially in rural areas, are not usually given the chance to access maybe radios. It is mostly the boys and the men. And now that Premier League has started, it will even be worse. So what are the anticipated consequences on adolescents and young people from COVID-19? We anticipate an increase in mental health related issues. Even if COVID-19 stopped today, we are going to have an increase in mental health issues. So, religious leaders, we should be ready. Are we counseling people? Are we telling people what should happen? Then malnutrition, because for malnutrition, there are those who get overweight because of overeating. Then there are those who get underweight because they don't have enough. And then pregnancy. Adolescents are not yet ready to have children. When they have children at such a young age, there are complications that come with pregnancy. Living alone, dropping out of school. Like we have already said, school is very protective for adolescents. So when they drop out of school, they are already problems. But then there are also complications of pregnancy, lifelong complications to some of them. Adolescents, when they get pregnant, some of them want to abort. They do all kinds of things to abort. We've seen girls who get cassava sticks and pierce themselves just to kill that baby. And then they end up losing the uteruses because they pierce through. So that person will be infertile for the rest of their lives. Then some of them who go on to give birth, they face difficult labor and then they get fistula and all that. These are lifelong problems that really hinder someone's life completely. When you see someone who has had a fistula, their life is never the same again. So, what are the mitigation measures that have been taken on by Ministry of Health? On the leadership, we have the coordination from the national to the subnational level. At the national level, we have the technical working group, which brings together all major ministries that affect adolescent, young people's health. So these people come together and bring out ideas and discuss how to help and handle adolescents, especially in this pandemic. But at the district level, we have the DICAs. They also include the different ministries and partners, religious leaders, cultural leaders. They all come for the good of the adolescent, but we also go up to the sub-county level, also having the same considerations. For the health workers and facility-based services, health workers are being trained how to handle adolescents, not to be judgmental. Yes, we know an adolescent is going to may come when they are pregnant. Are you going to tell them, why were you looking for pregnancy at your age? It is already done. How do you help this adolescent to ensure it doesn't happen again, so that they can also pass on the message to the other? So health workers are being trained in how to provide adolescent-friendly services. This is not, unfortunately, this training is not given to us in the training schools in medical school, nursing school, it is not done. So it has to be an ad hoc training. Though we are now thinking of, we are planning to start including it into the curriculums. So essential health services must continue and should not be affected. These include health education, antenatal care for those who come pregnant, post-abortion care for those who come when they have aborted, active sexual gender-based violence, case identification and management, and psychosocial support, HIV care and treatment, delivery services, postnatal care and immunization of babies born to adolescents, pregnancy prevention, then and organized adolescent targeted SRHR enriches. Health workers are also supposed to ensure an enabling environment while providing services to adolescents and young people during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they should encourage parents and guardians and caregivers to supervise movement of young people while at home. And there is no parental consent required to test an adolescent and young person suspected to be infected of coronavirus. We encourage male engagement in all provision of services, fathers, brothers, uncles, neighbors. When girls get pregnant, of course it's girls who get pregnant, fingers are pointed at girls. Women, of course, they also pointed at their mothers. But during adolescence, girls don't listen to their mothers. They look at their mothers like they don't understand. But they listen to their fathers. And of course, fathers know what it means to disempower a girl. Because they have been boys at a certain point, and they have disempowered some girl also. So if they tell the girl, if they advise the girl about sexual issues, a girl is more likely to take the advice of the father than of the mother. But most times, fathers don't come in to talk to girls about these things. So at the community level, at the time when there is when there are lockdowns and the likes, where there is no transport movement, we encourage that pharmacies, drug shops, VHTs, and community peer leaders continue to provide services in the community, distributing commodities that may be required, and helping adolescents to find adolescent-friendly services. Because when it's one person, it is easier for them to move to the health facility, get commodities, and can pass them to adolescents. Health facilities are also encouraged to organize outreaches for special categories of adolescents and young people who may not be able to come to the health facilities to receive facilities. These may include adolescents on streets, those in hard-to-reach areas, refugee settings, and out of school. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabuire. We are so appreciative. For those who have just joined us, We are live on Baba TV and other media houses, even Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and other media platforms. And I'd like to particularly welcome you, for those who have just joined us, to this interfaith dialogue at Source of the Nile Hotel. And as I talk now, let me categorically recognize that in this dialogue we have the Right Reverend Patrick Wakula. For those who have just joined us, he's in the house with us. Reverend Chris Yonacheye, the Vice Chairperson, SRHR Board of Directors, Uganda, is here with us. Chewe, yeah, sorry. Reverend Canon Everett Mogarura from Namirembe Diocese is here with us. From Christian University, please. Uganda Christian University is here with us. Bishop Chinene Eriab is here with us also from the Born Again Faith. Sheikh Swaib Kaziba is here with us representing the District Qadi of Busoga. Sheikh Runabala Yusuf is here with us, the County Qadi where we are of Butembe. Hajat Alima, the Amira of Busoga, she's here with us also. She's the chairperson of all Muslim women in Busoga sub-region. We have Reverend Father Panoha Joseph, is also here with us from the Orthodox faith. We have Reverend Ogoti Jackson from Bokedi, Ogutu Jackson from Bokedi Diocese is here with us. We have Pastor Tusime Annette from Bugishu sub-region. She's here with us. Tumusime. Sorry, she's Tumusime. We have the programs director, Mary Stops, Madam Faith. She's also there with us. Thank you very much. Banange abali ku Baba TV abakati joininga tulikogera ku nsonga edigemagana kumbera ey'abaana baife abato era buvunaanyizibwa ki bw'olina eyo gy'oli kyova bula munumba eno tulimu n'abakulembeze ab'amadiini okuba nga boogera ku nsonga edo mu kiseera kino ekya COVID-19. Kuba basinga ssaawa eno abaana abato tibali kufuna information gye beetaaga bulungi egema ku bulamu bwaibwe. Kyova aba SRHR Alliance ne partners baibwe nga UNESCO baviireyo okuba nti basobola okutuusa message eno buli omu ategeera obuvunaanyizibwa bwe ku nsonga edigemagana n'abaana abato. Kuba mwedi bulungi ssaawa eno tuli mu igalo, abaana tibali kusoma, okujja amadwaliro mbeera nzibu eriyo. Kibobona aba SRHR Alliance baviireyo okuba nti tiimu eno y'abakulembeze amadiini bagezaako okuvaayo okusala empenda edinaatambuza bulungi abaana baife abato mu mbeera ey'obulamu. So mutyame entende mubenga n'okutuuliriza ku Baba TV. Munanda okuparticipatinga time eyida kutuuka mubenga musobola otwegayitako. Mbeyanza ino, thank you very much. Still nga tukali program yaife era tulina ni one of the youth leaders kuba tuli kulingirira the young people, and in this house we have Rakib Chiyimba from Mayuge district as the chairperson youth. I'll be recognizing other
dignitaries as we move on. I request this August House to have a point of interaction or questions to Dr. Nabwire so that we can have a person. Thank you very much. Thomas? Pick the microphone from the other side. For those who may be having questions to Dr. Nabwire, you're welcome, please. Or comment, please. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Reverend Canon Everett Mugarura, once again. First of all, I would like to thank my Lord Bishop for ably expounding and unpacking what role we have as religious leaders, as faith leaders. You've done us the best. Thank you very much, Bishop. This is a general comment to all of us. If I could ask a question, what do we have that we can talk about right now as interfaith? One, we have the adolescents before us. No faith institution does not have adolescents that we are talking about. We have them in plenty. Two, we have very rich structures running from the national down to the smallest unit you can talk of in our community, in our society, in our country. Very important. We have the willingness, and that's why we are here. The willingness to come together and talk about issues of young people, including the adolescents. And then we have the challenges that our young people are faced with. We know them. Teenage pregnancy is rampant, defilement, exploitation of any form. We know them. We can sing them. Anyone here can talk about the problems of adolescents, even when you have not prepared. We know them. So we have them. We have the challenges. Some people think that we don't have funds. We have the funds. The resources are here. What is missing? We miss the understanding of our roles. We have missed that understanding. And therefore, we have left the things we should have done undone, and probably we are doing other things, doing things which are not meant for us, and therefore, we miss what we have. We miss to nurture the young people in the way they should. And therefore, that is a gap. Understanding our roles. Ownership. Do we own these problems that we are highlighting here as faith institutions? If we do, then action must follow immediately. And very importantly, we miss the desired and appropriate and meaningful engagement of our young people. Yes, we are engaging as adults right now, but we have not engaged our young people so that we know what affects them and why it affects them, so that they tell us the challenges that they go through, other beyond what we think they are going through, and what causes that. That is a gap that we must address. Lastly, we need to begin to unpack these terminologies that we use, like comprehensive sexuality education, what does it mean? Right? Can we unpack that in the context of our language as faith leaders? We need to unpack the issue and concept of integration. Where do we begin to integrate? What do we need to integrate? Sexual reproductive health. What do we need? The faith institutions have the structures. The bishop has really highlighted it. All we need is to take action and make sure that we have that appropriate integration with appropriate information and strategies. And all these we are talking about, male involvement, will be brought to nothing. It won't be a problem anymore, as long as the integration is meaningful integration, following the values, the structures, and all that we need, the language, all that we need to have our young people engaged properly, including providing them all the information, facts about science. They need to know this science. Why not? You need to teach them about sex education. What does it mean? Puberty, what does it mean to you as you grow up? Teach them without limitation. You only need to know which age group needs what information. So if we can have that packaged properly, unpacked, then we'll be good to go. I have a whole book I can talk about. May God bless us. May God challenge us as religious leaders, as parents, as Ugandans, to come out and show the world, tell the world that we actually can do it, beginning today. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I think our dear Canon, I think we can share that book. We can share that book. Thank you very much. Make a photocopy and we'll make better use of it. Please.
Thank you very much. First of all, the Bishop for the filtered quality keynote address. Thank you very much, Lord Bishop. And I want to thank Dr. Justin for the insights that he has given us. I've been listening very attentively and really seeing what is on ground, the statistics that you have given us and what we know and also read about. And I noted that there's really a big challenge. I'm not very old, but when I was still an adolescent, I think the current challenges were not as big as they were by then. When you look at the teenage pregnancies, and I realized that part of this is, I think, the globalization question, where there's a lot. And I really want to thank the stakeholders in this for engaging us as religious leaders. And indeed, we shall do our part. But then, when you look at the community where the adolescents live, there are certain things I think growing up in ignorance somehow helped those years. You remember they used to tell us that children are good from supermarkets. Mom comes back with a baby, I bought it. My mom in the village right now has a bigger and better TV than mine. All the kids in the village are seeing these soaps, movies, they're seeing women producing things some of us never saw. And now as we empower the religious leaders, My main concern is on the caregivers who may not be privileged to sit here like us. How is the Ministry of Health, especially from your Department of Adolescent and Youth and School Health Division? I think we really need to empower the communities. Are we still this type of a community and a culture where we're not supposed to talk about these issues? It is an abomination. Well, these people are getting it, the adolescents are getting it from WhatsApp and all these media houses all over, and the peer-to-peer education that they're having. I think we need to go deeper. I don't dissociate myself from the problem, and indeed as religious leaders, we are continuing to opening our eyes and to widen our scope as we reach out with the gospel and also integrate this sexual and reproductive health rights as we engage with the people. But I'm concerned, you know, we are in a culture where some of these things are not supposed to be talked about. And as we keep putting our heads in the sand, children are getting pregnant at 11 years, 12 years, 14 years. So I think it is really high time we went deeper and empowered the communities, break some of these cultural constraints that really curtail some of this information to be passed out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. SRHR and Busoga Diocese Education Program. For really, your first invitation last year on the same topic at resort and tonight. So I have two things to comment after appreciating what you are doing. I want to appeal to Busoga Diocese and Church of Uganda at large. We have heard there is actually Interreligious Council, but it seems it ends in Kampala. Because me personally, I read this district, and each sub-county I have an overseer there and pastors. But we have never met. I'm glad my Lord Bishop is around. Please take the message, talk to your counterpart, Bishop Naiman and our bishops at the sub-county levels and the parishes, so that we can join together and we carry this message. The devil is always not happy. So when we meet here, we say, yes, the good job is being done, but we have not had an access. And maybe lastly, I want to thank Madam Nawire Justin for the comment given for the youth. But I want to point out, Madam, that also young men are raped. Because since actually HIV came in, men have died more. I told you, HIV started when I was still a young man in UEB. What we buried many. But women who lost their husbands in 78, they are still alive. And they hire these young men, buy them cars, eventually infect them. So please also talk to Dr. Diego. I will also be talking with him. Let's join hands with the Ministry of Health. We carry this message. Otherwise, we may think that God has come for the end of the world when it is our own negligence. God bless you.
Okay, thank you all participants, the bishop, and religious
Thomas?
leaders. I'm very happy for the comments I've got from you. It's true, I would like to comment on the issue of people with disability. For example, Ginger District, it has so many people with disability. In Mbale, in Ginger, Busoga here. But truly, people with disability are sexually active. So there are also people who have problems in community. And some people think people with disability cannot have sex. Are they really normal like us? They have sexual parts like we do. But truly, people with disability are sexually active. And we have people with disability who are youth. And many have gotten pregnant, of course. And now the fact that COVID is here, men have stayed home. They don't have employment. There's no school. So they stay home. Now, we just hear one youth with disability has produced twins, children. So the challenge is too big. And access to information is really limited. So I don't know the religious leaders. How can we help people with disability? Because right now the issue of COVID has affected service delivery, but how are we incorporating people with disability to get information? For example, deaf people. It is hard to get information, and access to information is very hard for deaf people. And so they are marginalized, they are set aside. So people think, how can we communicate to deaf people? So it's a very big hassle. They just ignore them. And yet they have concerns, genuine concern. So many are left aside, they are neglected. So we need to get information on SRHR, on HIV, and so many other services. But the bishop, the reverends, the pastors, it is very hard to meet them directly and in person. And how could we communicate to them? So, like, issues of sexual rights and people with disability, they have not been put in perspective. So I would like to appeal to the religious leaders to incorporate and include disability movements and rights for people with disability. Sex is for all and sexuality is for all. And hopefully we can have a good lasting intervention so that we can improve lives of people. So prayer-free, we can really approach all this in all our relevant and our denominations. So I hope this can help us have better interventions.
Thank you very much, Sheriff, for that wonderful information. And I think it is really good to share such information with this fundamental team.
Thank you so much, my Lord Bishop, for the wonderful presentation and all the previous speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, Kag Madense is my name. I'm the diocesan youth leader for the Catholic Church in Jinja Diocese. My point of concern is about family involvement. A lot has been said, a lot will be said, but we are not penetrating the yoke where the problem is. What went wrong? When we were growing up, fathers used to spend time with the boys, mothers spend time with girls, but nowadays, everybody is too busy. I had a CBO called Living Testimony, but during our community meetings, we have discovered that this time, COVID has even forced the fathers to get involved in other activities of the family. For instance, education of their children. You will find that the mother may not have a smartphone, but they had a candidate in the home. So the father was forced to hand over the phone to the candidate in order to study. So we should not be having such pandemics in order for us to take off our roles. Go back to the drawing board and look at the role of the family. What are we doing? Because at this time we are speaking, but what are we really going to do to access the young people? Then the other aspect that we should involve the young people themselves. I want to request the stakeholders here, the Minister of Health, the SR, HR, Family FLEP, and all the stakeholders here to involve the youths. Imagine if this dialogue had youth leaders at various levels. Or can you cascade this to lower levels so that the real stakeholders can get there? Otherwise, sometimes when we involve our elders, they become rhetoric. You know, we say, this is the common song people sing. What do you expect from a religious leader? Still will tell you this and this. But when they see fellow youths talk about this, it really touches them more. So we need to involve them more than even the elders, because I am told this is the second or third dialogue, but the very people are the ones attending. Then the other thing is, I want to appreciate in a special way having considered youth with disability. Some of us who are disabled, we don't need to go to school to study what disabled people go through from childhood, even from family level. So in whatever program people are left out, then at the height of it all, they just call you to sugarcoat a little bit and they say the disabled people are involved. But when you go down to the ground, things are not happening the way we expect them to happen. So I want to implore all the stakeholders here that let us get to the ground and let us get to the yoke of the problem itself. Otherwise, we shall continue having dialogues, but asking ourselves what is happening. Because as we dialogue like this, down there, other worse of scenarios are happening, and we ask ourselves, where does the information get lost from? Thank you. My name is Dennis Kagoma. I'm the diocesan youth leader for Jinja Diocese, the Catholic Church, and I am the executive director, Living Testimony International, a community youth-led CBO based in Kamuli, working in Luuka, Kamuli, and Viende as of now.
Thank you very much, our dear comrades, for such a wonderful contribution. I have something so small. I wanted to pass some small message, because we may run off media, because Baba TV is just 10 minutes to be off. We shall be having some media houses, but so upon that, I would like to invite Charles. Invite Charles for just a few words, and thanks to our dear Bishop. Before you can proceed, I beg. I also would like to thank the Monitor Group, Vision Group, Baba TV, NBS, for the wonderful job that you're doing, broadcasting this interfaith dialogue on integration of adolescent health information and services in the COVID-19 response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MC, His Lordship, the Bishop, in his absentia. I still want to recognize and appreciate, I know he's coming back, his extraordinary keynote address. If it is the first time that he has really made it, I think he should make it more, because it was extraordinary. And I want to thank you all for your submission. I could feel in this hall the passion that we have for young people, and the drive that we need to do something differently. I want to thank our Vice Chair of the board, Reverend Chris Chewe, just to tell you that this initiative of the interfaith was actually an initiative of FLEP, Family Life Education Program, that is headed by Reverend Chris. He started it, the Alliance Space is just lifting it to the national level, and we want to make it a national agenda that we should push all over. And we are working together with Canon Evard, who is really technically guiding us to make sure we reach all the regions. So after here, next week on Tuesday, we'll be in Barara for Western region, and then we are heading to Arua for Northern region. So we want this to be a national agenda. And why? Because the nation needs you. You know, like the Minister of Health, thank you so much, Dr. Justin, for coming. I know it has been a busy schedule, but we are happy to have you. The nation needs you. When we're talking about these numbers, 25% teenage pregnancy, they sound like numbers. But those of you who visit the health facilities, you see the reality. And this is a moment that the nation needs the religious leaders to come out very strong. About 90% plus percentage of the young people in the country are being brought up in the religious setting. And that means that within the different faith group, we can actually help this adolescent. We can help them to get positive behavior that you desire. We can help them to protect them. And that's why we are bringing on board Minister of Health, because we want to work as a team. As we are just your partners, the Alliance is just providing a space. But the actual action, it needs leadership. It takes leadership for us to get this done. And so what we are calling upon you to do at the different level is to first of all provide leadership and space for this to be integrated within your program. And then the technical aspect of mentoring people to understand what kind of message they need to pass, those ones, we shall work with Ministry of Health to support you on it. That is our commitment, and we are with the Ministry of Health, the Adolescent Health Division, we are ready to do that. There's already a guideline for that. We're even going to have a dialogue with all the focal person for adolescent health in all the districts. We're going to have webinars with them to discuss the same issue. So we are there to support you, and we are not in a journey to change anything from the faith. The question is to work with you and bring this home within the faith context. Because every time we are just blaming each other. There's that girl who is getting pregnant. There's that boy who doesn't have information and is impregnating a girl. And some of these pregnancies are in our homes. We are going to hear from the school. In the schools, how much they are struggling with this. We're going to hear from the director of Wanyange Girls, and you will hear how much they are suffering from. They are struggling with this. We work with so many schools. In Busoga here, over 100 schools. But it's the same issue. And now time has come when we have to act to protect our children. When we have to act to save the nation. If we don't, we will just keep hearing the figures rising and rising. And so that's why this dialogue is so important for us, and we really value the time that each one of you have given here. We are going to continue the conversation, but I just wanted that on behalf of the team at the Alliance and all our partners who are here, we have so many partners that we are working with, including UNESCO, the Ministry of Health, and all other partners that we are working with. We want to give you assurance that we are ready to work with you. And if you really come forth with the leadership of His Lordship, the Bishop, the regional Qadi for the Muslim community, and the different faith group, we're ready to work with you and really protect and safeguard our children. That's all I wanted to say, but let's continue the conversation because it's still going to be broadcasted live on the different platform. We will only have Baba TV go up for news at 1 o'clock, but then the rest of the conversation will continue and it will be live. So we should continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for that wonderful information. Let me take this opportunity to invite Reverend Irene from Wanyange Chaplain. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, friends. Hope we are still talking teenagers and adolescents issues. Are we still at that? All right, all right. My name is Reverend Irene Namazi Yibanda. And I work with Wanyange Girls Secondary School as the school chaplain. Allow me to observe protocol as our Lord, the Bishop of Central Busoga, comes in. Baba, I recognize your presence. And I want to thank you for the keynote address. Thank you. It was really, really enriching and challenging. And we took our package. And I want to thank the organizers as well. The Vice Chairperson, SRHR, Reverend Chrisiona, and the entire team. And please allow me to say all protocols observed and praise the name of the Lord. We are still talking about continuity of access to essential adolescent health services amidst this pandemic. And it's been here since last year. And as we talk, there are those students who haven't been in school for coming to 2 years now. And they have gone through a lot, and indeed they are still going through a lot. The challenges have already been addressed, and they are the similar challenges or the same challenges that we keep seeing every now and then. Peer influence or peer pressure. There is teenage pregnancies, there are drug abuse, and then making the right choices. You know, the challenges are many. So as we address these challenges this afternoon, I want to go back to what my brother, the youth leader in the Roman Catholic faith, said, and that will be my number one point, the yoke of the matter, our homes, nurturing and mentorship. We are getting all these problems, all these teenage pregnancies. We are seeing our children drop out of school because of this one thing, and that is where everything starts from. Parents, we are found to be busy. And indeed we are. And we appreciate the fact that we need to be busy because we are fending for our families, and we want to say that we have happy families. But as we continue to be busy, we are losing out. Our children are becoming young mothers at a very tender age. So parents, where are we? Can we give time, quality time to our children. As we are saying that we are busy, we are actually saying that we don't have time to what is important to us. We are saying that our families or our children are not a priority. And I want to tell us that there is no way how you can fail to find the time for what is important and what is a priority to you. Are we together, parents? The good thing, I'm talking to parents, all of us here are parents. Yes, we are religious leaders, but most of us here are parents. So how much time are we giving to our children? How much time are we giving to our children as far as their life, their behavior, and their future is concerned? Why are we beginning with the home? I've already said that everything begins from there. Nurturing, mentorship begins at home. Before we receive them in school, something has already happened at home. So I want to think that all the gaps we are seeing and having, the problem is at home. So can we do something at home? May we have time to train these our children. We have talked and we are continuing to talk and we are teaching, but may we do so much of training, because training is by example. Training is by doing and example. You don't show them, you don't tell them what to do, but you show them how to do it and what to do by the way how you do it. And to give an example, if in a home, you as a father, for example, beat up the mother, what is it that you're communicating into this young man? You're actually telling him that beating is not enough. You need to fracture her leg. Because children are silent learners. They watch silently and they learn by doing and by example. So we need to purge these gaps as far as our homes are concerned, because us as parents, we are the first teachers, and what we do will either impact positively or negatively into the lives of these young people. At school, Wanyange Girls, that's my school. We do receive quite a number of girls, but there is this particular one early last year when they came back to school. She was a very bright girl. And we realized that she was declining. So we had to intervene. We had to intervene, and we found out that at home she was neglected. She wasn't given what she was supposed to get, and so she was into an affair, a sexual affair. So that was making her decline. And on top of that, she would come at school without enough of the things that she needed to use at school. So we had to come in, and that tells us that parents, we are not doing enough, so we need to check ourselves. I wanted to begin at that because this afternoon I'm talking to parents, and I'm sure, or I know, that we could be having similar challenges and problems as well. Did we talk about spending time and giving them enough time? There is a speaker who said that girls associate easily with their fathers. The fathers who are here, what is it that you're doing with your girl, your daughter? Every time I'm moving out of the home, I pick my children, but I've never seen my husband do that. So fathers, where are we? As we do some of these things, we are teaching them that there is no other person who can love them better than that. Remember, young people want to be loved, and they are looking for love. But the love out there is false love. This man will tell them that I love you, when the love they are going to give them out, it's false love. So religious leaders, the fathers who are here, the parents who are here, nurturing is very, very key. And if we are going to have responsible teens or to minimize on these challenges, fathers, we need to check ourselves, and we need, as parents, to check ourselves. My Lord the Bishop talked about emphasizing rights and their responsibilities. Young people talk so much about it's my right. Why are you doing this? It's my right. But as you talk about that being your right, what responsibility comes with the right? So may we endeavor to teach them their responsibilities and also their rights. I want to talk about counseling. And again, parents, we are counselors. Us as religious leaders, we are counselors. We shouldn't run away from that. In the churches, God has given us an opportunity, by the way, us as religious leaders. Because we talk and people listen. We talk and people go and do what we have talked about. So, on this pulpit, in the mosques, in the churches, can we use the platform to say something to these young people? Again, where I work, every other day, we talk about abstinence. Every other day, be it on assembly, be it in class, on our compound, we have these talking messages. But that doesn't mean that the girls don't go in for these sexual relations. No, they actually go into them. But we emphasize abstinence because it is godly. Once you abstain, you will not be distracted. You will still go on with your studies perfectly and very well. So as we do counseling, what is important for us to note is that these young people are looking for someone to confide in. There is a young girl who approached me. Actually, she's not the one who approached me, but the friends came to me and told me, you know what, Reverend? So and so is looking so pale. In a week, she bathes like twice, thrice. Actually, it's rare to see her bathing in the evening. I said, okay. And you know what? She was performing so very well. But we don't know what the problem is. So I made it a point to look for this girl. When I got this girl, the first question she asked me was, Reverend, won't you tell what I'm going to tell you to other people? Because I realize there is no one who loves me. These young people are looking for people that they can confide in and for people who can accept them and love them the way they are. So I told her, you're not the first one, neither are you the last to tell me what you're going through. So I realized in our different engagements and discussions, she had this boy that she loved so much. And to the extent that she told me that every end of holiday, that's where she goes. I said, okay, where are your parents? My parents are there. Parents, where are we? Do we know the peers, the friends to our children? Do we know those that they associate with? So I engaged this girl for quite a number of times and a number of occasions. And I'm sure she's okay. As religious leaders, again, we are counselors. We are parents. We need to continue engaging and talking to the young people, not forgetting our own. We have talking messages that talk about Christian values of God-fearing, honesty, true love, purity. Of course, there are those innocent ones. There are those innocent ones, even in senior six. So we emphasize keeping healthy and also keeping faithful to yourself and remaining pure. I want to remind, maybe before I do the reminder, when our Lord, the bishop was talking here, he talked about the different programs that the church use to access these young people. And one of those avenues was the chaplaincies. I wish he was still here. I would request him that every school, there should be a chaplain. Chaplaincies are very key. At some point, they were neglected. But now I'm glad that some schools have that. Because we are training a whole person. These young people need to come out in their full totality, the physical part, the emotional part, the spiritual life, every part, when it is talked about. So when we don't put there the chaplaincies, then that part of it is neglected. In our schools, I don't know how, whether my friends, the Muslims, have that, but I'm sure they do, the Roman Catholics also. On our weekly assemblies, we make sure that we are talking about issues of purity, issues of abstinence, every issue that concerns a girl, child, we make sure that we do address such issues. And so I want to encourage us this afternoon that we need to remind these young people that their bodies are temples of God. Their bodies are temples of God where the Holy Spirit dwells. We need to remind them to flee from sexual immorality. I always tell them that your partner is waiting for you somewhere. And interestingly, with young people, they think that those young people who are not in relationships, they have a katala. But I tell them there is nothing you lose out if you don't engage in a sexual relationship. But there is so much that you lose out when you keep engaging yourself in these sexual relationships. So, may we encourage these young people to remain pure. For those that haven't engaged in these sexual relations, and also for those who have already engaged in them, to abstain. To abstain. I will not talk about the condom use. That is not mine. But as a religious leader, I need to encourage them, or may we be encouraged to tell them to abstain and to remain pure. We do have routine checkups, pregnant checkups. As they come in, and in the middle, and even as they go back. And we realize, just like one person said or commented, that our children are already into these acts. So we normally get them more so when they have just come back from homes. And where these homes, the parents are there, the guardians are there, and everyone is there. And then we find them when they are heavy. So what do we do? Or what should we do as religious leaders or as schools? What should we do? I want to say that as parents, we need to do our work. I think I started off with that. That as parents, we need to be there. We need to talk to our children about sex and sexuality. Young as they are, someone was saying that there is a way how you sugarcoat it. Someone says, a baby, a girl of 4 or 5 says, when your belly is big, and they will ask you, Mommy, what is happening? But as they grow up, they know. So we need to open them to such information. So we begin with the parent, and the parent will tell you, yes, this girl is pregnant, but we want to encourage you to first accept this girl. Because at this point, she's confused. And this boy or this man who is responsible is not ready to take her in. So you as a parent, this is your daughter. Accept her the way she is. Support her to go through this time of carrying the child and then up to the time of delivery. And as a parent still, when this child has given birth, I want to encourage you, the parents and the religious leaders listening to me, please take back this girl to school. Are we together? Take back this girl to school. Because many of us, we have done similar mistakes, but we never allowed ourselves to be prisoners of our past mistakes. So I want to encourage you, religious leaders, as we talk to the parents, may we encourage them, yes, the child, the mistake has happened, but help this girl to come out of this mistake, and please take her back to school because she has a future. Hope there are parents here who are agreeing with me that value addition on our girl children is important. So we need to keep them in school even after such has happened. Because failing is not the end of the world. They need that hope, and just as Christ accepts us, we need to accept our children when mistakes are done. These children need to be taught character qualities. I mentioned about knowing the friends of our children, of these teenagers. Because the bad company corrupts good morals. Most of the teenage pregnancies, most of the school dropouts, most of, the problems that we are seeing, there is someone who influenced them into falling into that mistake. So may we know who their peers are, and we help them to come out of that. I always tell them to do a life audit. A life audit where you check who your friends are. You spend much time to those that inspire you, those that energize you, those that encourage you, those that support you. You need to spend much of your time with research and then less time with the people who drain energy out of you. So teaching them that character quality is also important as we do address these challenges as continuity of access to essential adolescent services amidst this pandemic. Finally, but most important, as religious leaders, we cannot go away without mentioning this. I call it permanent. Permanent and pensionable. We need to introduce salvation to these young people. No matter the age, no matter the point, whether they are still pure or whether they are impure, they need Jesus. They need salvation, that message of forgiveness. Because when they drop out of school or when they are pregnant, they think that is the end of it all. Oh my God, I'm no longer considered as a child. I'm no longer important. I'm less important. So they need to realize the grace that there is a God who can forgive them and they can surely be helped to come back. And when you do this, there is that change of thought. And this change of thought will lead them to a new direction. They will realize that they are important. They are still of value. They are still special. And they can still get what they are supposed to get as far as their future is concerned. My father, the bishop, mentioned about this, and I also put it here as our food for thought, that it's mostly the girl child who is affected mostly because the challenges are evident and visible on them, like pregnancy. And all our energies, all our efforts are put in to see that they're empowered, and not so much is done to a boy child. So our food for thought this afternoon, what is the future like with the girls who are empowered, with the boys who were ignored? I want to thank you for your kind attention, and God bless you.
I thank you very much, Reverend from Wanyange Chaplain. Members, I'm so sorry, but I beg we use these 10 minutes profitably. May I please invite Chairman Rakib? Just within 3 minutes, you highlight the challenges that you face with the youth in Mayuge. Then, after Rakib, I'll be having Marion to tell us the challenges they face. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Protocol is already observed. I don't really want to repeat it. I just want to be straight to the point, because I know as time goes on, people tend to tire every now and then. In this current state of global chaos around the COVID-19 crisis, the impact of adolescents' continued access to essential and life-saving health info and services is not making any headlines. I think we all know that. But this is a reality that crisis will have a more devastating effect on the young people. We are seeing, we have reached an extent where resources are being diverted from SRHR services to COVID-related effects only. This has brought a very big impact on the youth in Mayuge, I lead, and Uganda in particular. We know very well that before COVID, access to these health services has always been a problem. Now, look at the situation where there is a pandemic, which is even straining most of the robust health systems. What is happening? We have got a shadow pandemic of high teenage pregnancies, high early marriages, high school dropouts, all happening in our current situation. Now, COVID crisis now threatens to shrink access to these health services. Particularly in Mayuge, we have very many problems happening. But as leaders and as a community, we are trying to see how best can we really tackle these challenges. In the current state where children are not going to school, we have tried to devise means of how we can reach the young people on an online system, teach them their sexual rights. We have created an application which is called My Right, My Youth, where we're trying to advocate for the young people, still have access to this information amidst this pandemic. But still, in an era where internet connection is more of a laxity than a necessity, we are trying to devise means of how we can reach the young people who don't have access to internet. We are saying remote learnings have been introduced in Mayuge. We remember very well that before the system became we had always engagements where young people could meet at the fields and discuss on a few things. We have trained our youth leaders from across Mayuge to, at least before a football match, sensitize your fellows how they can still access the SRHR services within the community, even amidst this pandemic. We have gone as far as preaching to our parents and the schools that they should change the approach. Even when a girl child produces, they still have a right to continue with education. We have seen that this has been a norm of most schools to discourage and to stigmatize young children who have gotten pregnant. We have engaged the DHO, we have engaged the COW, and our efforts have been noticed. We are saying, even when someone produces, but when he's still an adolescent or a teenager, he should still continue with education. We have gone ahead to have meetings. You know, they say charity begins at home. We started as youth leaders. You know, youth leadership has a structured leadership from village to district to national. So we started with our very own, the youth leaders. We invited our parents in a deliberate meeting and sensitized them about the need to still have continued access to SRHR services for the adolescents. What did we tell them? We need to still engage our children at home. You know, I come from a family which is so Islam that whenever I could see a condom advert at home when dad is around, I could try to hide. Until when I grew up and had a family of my own, because I'm a proud father of one, and I realized this is not the right thing to do. These things, children often tend to know them just like the previous spokespersons have been saying. So we have advocated to our parents to still give continued access to SRHR information to our parents, to their children, such that they can still continue access them. As I told you, I come from a religious setting. I one day engaged my imam and my sub-county card of Baita Mbogwe sub-county, of my county card, and I asked him how much information did he know about the SRHR information. To my surprise, unlike the one of Butembe, who is more informed, mine told me a different thing. Islam actually encourages, for as long as a child menstruates, she is fit to marry. You may correct me if I go wrong, but that's what he said. So we have, much as the SRHR has identified that religious leaders are key important people to change the mindset of religious leaders, we need to have an extra effort as a team. We need to engage them as leaders, as community members, to let them continue preach and change that attitude, that menstruation is not the only sign of maturity in Islam. Someone can start menstruation at 11. Is she fit to marry? At 9. So, Kadhi, you still have a long way to go. We identified this as youth leaders. We've tried to engage the few that we can, but we also call upon the leadership of the Islamic denomination to still change the mindset and change some of these teachings. Actually, I have come to know that most teachings, it depends on who is interpreting that gives it flesh. It's just like law. You read the law the same way, you interpret it different way. So if you can incorporate good teachings and maybe give them a flesh when you're explaining, we shall have the young people mentored and we have continued access to essential health services. I would like to conclude by saying, Uganda is a young population. Just like the Reverend Cannon said. We have 48.47% out of the 44 million people being the what? The young population. So you imagine what will happen in the next 10 years when that number of young people goes astray. We shall have a truly very different Uganda than even the one we have. We shall have the massacre incidents happening elsewhere in the country. So it is high time, as youth leaders, as religious leaders, please, most especially because I'm an Islam, most especially Islam, to change our attitudes towards SRHR information we give to our adolescents. Without wasting a lot of time, allow me take back this microphone to the MC and also allow me go and advocate for the same in Mbale, where we are having a National Youth Council conference for the 3 delegates from across Uganda to incorporate. Actually, we should have invited people like you with information to come and give such information to the youth leaders across the country. But you'll find, to my dismay, that we shall have NRA mobilizers there instead of bringing such leaders who can give SR and SRHR information to them. So I want to act as an agent of change. I want to carry this information to Mbale, to the entire leadership of Busoga Fraternity in Eastern. Thank you very much. I thank you.
Enoni Baba TV, Obusoga Bulaire.